Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jewelers reimagines family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Working one-on-one, Duke's designers honor the original story while creating something fresh and modern. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com, where old stories become new treasures.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Win Tickets Wednesday. Caller 12-801-575-ZONE wins a pair of tickets to see Weezer with the Shins and Silver Sun Pickups at the Maverick Center on September 15th. Caller 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE. Yak is waiting to give those tickets away. Call now. All right, PK, we got a question up here. You put this up on Facebook, summarizing the college basketball season as it winds down. Was AJ Dybantsa worth it for BYU? And Scotty Davis channeled my answer. Most of the answers broke into two groups. Scotty was over in a third group, though. Scotty says, ask the people who paid the money for him. I didn't. So he was definitely worth it for me. For the average fan, I would think he's absolutely worth it. The two groups, though, Chris, clearly not. They finished in the middle of the conference and made a first-round exit in the tournament. But then we got tons of people. Rob, a trajectory changer for the perception of the program, 100% worth it. Case, why ask the very obvious? Don't be silly. Was Danny Ainge, Jimmer? Please. Time will tell, Hector says, but I think 100% yes. It wasn't the season we expected, but the exposure BYU got and to possibly having no number one in the draft is huge for the program and for recruiting. So there are people thinking that this is elevated BYU going forward. And for no other reason than to look at it as a program that will spend real money, which is now the biggest part of recruiting.
Yeah, but I think they were going to do that with or without Dybantsa. They're going to spend the money with or without him. They made that decision, and these boosters, these entrepreneur billionaires spiels, Riley Jensen was talking about, he's got a friend that works for BYU who told him that there's 4 billionaires that live within 15 minutes of the campus or something. I forget the exact distance, but whether it's 15 minutes or 20 minutes, what difference does it make, obviously? And they're big BYU fans. So I don't think that Dybantsa is going to bring in any more money. I think the money was going to be there irregardless because they made that decision. If you want to say the season was disappointing, that's fine. But just imagine if you didn't have him. It would have been awful.
That would look like.
Yeah.
I know.
And in terms of NCAA tournaments, you would have lost momentum. Because if you go to the Sweet 16, as they did last year in KY's first year, and then turn around and don't go at all in the second year, well, that's a loss of momentum. So, yes, the season didn't turn out from multiple factors to be what you wanted. But if you look at it and say, well, yeah, they got to the first round and lost, well, without him, you would have got nowhere near the first round. So if you look at it that way, he's the primary reason you actually got to the NCAA tournament. So I wouldn't knock that. I mean, at least you got to the tournament in a year that crumbled for various reasons, but you still had the opportunity to play. You still beat ranked teams and all that. Imagine if he wasn't there. You would have got nowhere near it. Now, you want to talk about the publicity that this young man brought? 100%. Yes. That is something that is, you cannot put a price tag on it. It's incomparable or uncomparable, whatever the word is, to anything that they've ever had here in modern times. That's the amount of attention he brought to the program and brought to Kevin Young, and what Kevin Young is doing was incredible. And to say that you have consecutive lottery picks, that is going to go a long way. And Bruce Branch maybe that's one, I would imagine, I haven't spoken to him, that's one of the reasons why he would commit to come to BYU and play the McDonald's game. So he's, high recruit, see what that means when he gets to the floor next season. But he can say, well, man, they got 2 lottery picks. I want to be that. Who doesn't want to be that? The money's going to be there either way. I think that with or without him playing for BYU, that doesn't really matter. So you can't really look at it from the money perspective because that was going to happen no matter what.
I think the recruiting this next class and getting, another elite guy, probably not another one pick, but getting another elite guy into the program, when you're having all those conversations, you're starting 16-1 and you're losing a thriller to, a heartbreaker, I guess, if you lose it. You're losing a heartbreaker to UConn, but you're winning a thriller over Clemson and all that. So there was definitely a lot of benefits along the way before ultimately, there were way more losses than you wanted at the end of the year. Checked out of the NCAA tournament much faster than you wanted to. Caleb says, would 5 guys have improved their defense? I'm not sure. Yeah, the season could have gone better, but I think your point, well, it would have gone worse without Dybantsa, is a strong one. I mean, that guy scored a lot of points and carried them to some big wins along the way.
Yes, and I think that it goes way beyond. This is bigger than basketball. Mm-hmm. It goes way beyond. It goes
branding.
About somebody who is not of the culture. And let's face it, we know most of the culture in Provo is white. Let's call it like it is. And if that offends you, well, the sun is hot. And that ought to offend you too. When you speak something that's overwhelmingly obvious, I don't think you necessarily should be offended in that. But I know people around here get skittish when you bring up race. And he came in, and there he is after the season when some players leave, drop out of school, and go start training. He's there. He's on campus a week or 2 after the season, high-fiving and hugging the young ladies for their big basketball victory. That reminded me of what Ron McBride used to do when he was the football coach at Utah. He would go to the games. I can remember sitting there on Saturday afternoons, and I was assigned, and I had no problem doing it, covering Utah basketball, Utah women's basketball, and I'd sit next to him, and we would chat. He would be there. And when I saw that, and I remember that when the Utah women went to the Sweet 16, they got to host. They let the on-campus ones, and they hosted. And as they're running up the tunnel, he is standing there high-fiving every young lady as they were going into the tunnel after the game and going on to the Sweet 16. It reminded me of Dybantsa, only he's a peer, not a football coach. And so that sends a powerful message to everyone around the world, and literally around the world, because that's what basketball is. Hey, you can come here. You don't have to be a church member and still have a great experience and have fun. And it looked like Dybantsa and the other young men who were players on the team were whooping it up with the young ladies on the basketball team, having a great time. So that alone shows that it's worth it, because Kevin Young wants to compete at the highest level, and good for him. The fans want him to do that too. Well, the fact is that you're going to need those types of players, because there's not that many LDS players who are going to be able to be at the top of that rung in college basketball. So you're going to need non-member fellows who want to come here and are really good. So all that goes into it. And the question that we ask, was it worth it? It's a resounding yes.
Think how many times the Marriott Center was on TV and the place was packed and rocking. And then think of all the college basketball. Even if you didn't watch it, if you channel surfed through it and you saw places that were half full or less, even 3/4 full, and you see empty bleachers and that, it's like, it's a different environment. It's a different level of excitement, and it raises the whole branding. Individual games and tournament runs. I mean, Duke is about as big a brand name as we've had over the last 40, 50 years, whatever it is. And their building's always packed. They go out in the first round of tournaments. They've had multiple first round exits. It's about the brand. And you look at them and you just think, oh, it's big time. It's exciting. Look how full the place is, and everyone's going crazy. And like you always like to say, man, one team wins and one team loses. And sometimes it's your team that loses. But not every place gets to play. Not everybody gets to play in a place that's packed and looks like that much fun. And the fact you would stay on campus afterwards, Man, tracking down players when they're trying to go to the NFL draft, they just routinely leave and go to LA and work out. We've been hearing that for years when we've tried to track.
Yeah, it's a little easier for football because there's a semester break.
The end of a semester break. But basketball players have disappeared.
They have. Absolutely, they have. They're gone out of the campus in March, particularly if they're not from there. Dybantsa's not from here, although his family has moved out here, as I understand it, right, Yak? And so, in a sense, he's from here. But the message that he sends, and I asked him, he was sitting down in the locker room after the game, the Texas loss. And I asked him, are you going to be still associated with BYU in the coming years? And he said, yes, I will. And that's powerful. He called Durant and Paul and Booker, and they gave KY great recommendations. So there's somebody right now who's in the 6th grade, and in 5 years, which isn't that long of a time, right, is going to be looking to make a decision. There's going to, whoever that number 1 player is in the 6th grade, we have no idea. The 6th graders probably know because they know all that stuff. Call this man. He'll be in his 5th year in the NBA. See what he has to say. Basically, it's like what they say, the influence of a teacher. You don't know it for many years to come, right? Because you're dealing with kids and maybe they don't tell you. But I can look back on some of the best teachers. I had Pablo Mastrioni on, and he used the word bemused, and I said, well, that was a great word to use in a quote. He said, yeah, that's thanks to my English teacher, Mr. Sargent. Of course, I knew who Ray Sargent was because we went to the same high school 15 years apart. Ray Sargent, who's deceased now because I looked it up, big Red Sox fan, he had an enormous influence. He probably didn't even know, hey, that little kid sitting in the back, that all these years later.
Yeah, right. 2, actually. I don't want to cheat him.
Clearly, my wife had him too. We went to the same high school. Clearly, Mr. Sargent had an effect on a 16, 17-year-old Pablo Mastrioni, that he remembers his name. I couldn't tell you all the teachers I had, but that must have had an influence on a young Pablo to bring it up. And it was a funny moment that we shared on the radio. Well, that's the type of influence that Dybantsa can have on BYU's program with Kevin Young there for the next however many years Kevin Young wants to be there, right? So, yeah. The influence and all that stuff, it was a resounding success despite the disappointment on the hardwood or on the LED lighted court.
And even if
LED glass.
Disaster. Just call it the disaster court. Just call it the slip and slide.
The slip and slide. That's a good one.
Do kids still get to play on the slip and slide, or is that just old school?
It's still a thing.
No, I think it's still a thing.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Kids shouldn't be cheated out of that. Slip and slides are awesome.
You got so many summer days to burn? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't see how you can say it's anything but a success.
This can pay off even after Kevin Young is gone. Let's say he wins big
Possibly.
and he leaves and goes to the NBA and all that. It'll still be a place that this is where he spent a year of his life and had a good time, and he'll still come back to games. We see players come back to games at schools all the time when the coach who was there has moved on. Coaches move on all the time. It's like you say, it's your alma mater. You know, now it's where you took classes online. Possibly you walked the halls. Possibly.
Well,
so,
he did. We told him. Yeah. He says he did.
Right. So 10 years from now, he could be 29, 30, 31 years old, a big deal. And Kevin Young might be coaching an NBA team. Who the heck knows what the future holds, right? But he could still be back at BYU talking it up, telling some 17-year-old who's watched him on TV his whole life that, oh, yeah, go there. I had a great time. That's why I'm back here now.
And I learned the stuff that Kevin said he was going to do. And Kevin's a little sensitive about it's not theoretical. Okay, it's not. You put one in, you put two in. You got me, man. It's not theoretical. You put guys in the NBA. Yeah. You could argue those guys would have gone to the NBA either way. Fine. But the fact is that they went and played for Kevin, and they clearly improved. It didn't look like in the middle of the season that Yegor Dielman was even going to be a first-round pick, let alone go in the top 10. And that's what happened. And, I'm sure some of the stuff that Kevin did is NBA oriented, and they want guys to make the adjustment as soon as possible because everyone is under pressure to have success at the pro level. So all that stuff. It just leads me to believe, the more I think about it, whatever you believe in a higher power or the world colliding in a proper way, he must be in a GS uniform next season. He must. This absolutely has to happen.
Well, there's a 10% chance that the lottery balls will fall their way, and then you get back to the whole Doug Gottlieb conspiracy theory, whatever. If they're drafting 2 or 3, can he leverage his way there? Or is that something that we're going to have to wait with, for free agency and however many years down the line?
I can wait if I have to, but I don't want to.
See, if he goes to Sacramento and he has 4 coaches in 4 years, right, and they're terrible. If he goes to the Wizards and the Wizards just keep being the Wizards, then you could see where the temptation to get out. But man, on draft night, even if the Jazz don't have to pick, it's like, well, what if the number of pick is like Indiana and they have a coach who's won a championship and they're about to get a star player back and he's going to be healthy, they could be good right away. I can see a lot of people rooting really hard, even if the Jazz don't have the number 1 pick, for what his scenario is.
No, we're going to go to Indiana and play second fiddle to the Colts. Come on. Let's play second fiddle to Indiana basketball and Purdue basketball, Notre Dame football's in the state. No, you come here, you'll be the biggest thing. You'll
toast of the town.
As my guy Kenny Chesney sings, you'll set the world on fire. He belongs here. He's one of us. He's Ron McBride in a younger man's clothes.
I think we'll leave it right there. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Tim LaComb will join us. We'll get his Final Four predictions and thoughts, the coaching carousel, where's it going to stop for some of the big names on the move, and how will it impact everybody else as everybody else reaches for a coach? We'll get to all that with the Jazz pre-half and post-game analyst Tim LaComb. Join us next. Stay with us.
Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. The Final Four is coming up this weekend, Saturday, the big doubleheader. Arizona and Michigan will obviously be the second game there, but that first one could still be really good with Illinois facing UConn. And PK, all eyes are on Arizona to see if they win it all and what Tommy Lloyd does. Is he just going to stay at Arizona and use the interest or perceived interest or real interest from North Carolina for leverage, or is he going to jump and set off a game of dominoes here, and then we'll see the trickle down effect if he makes a move, or trickle down effect if anybody else makes a move, for that matter, even if he doesn't take it. We're joined now by Tim LaComb, former BYU assistant on Rick Bujarus' staff at Utah as well. Now you hear him on Jazz pre-half and post. Tim, good morning.
Good morning.
We were just discussing your boy, Tommy Lloyd. What is he going to do? Is Arizona going to win it all? Is he going to bolt for North Carolina? It seems like all eyes are on him right now.
Yeah, they are. And, it's one of those unique situations. I think North Carolina's at least guys around our age, and Tommy's close to my age. That North Carolina carries kind of a different meaning, and obviously the Jordan brand and Jordan and everything else. So I would assume that is something that he will deal with at some point. Hold on one second.
Sha la 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 la. Let's
okay.
Today.
No, so I think, sorry. I think his his focus, like he said right now, and I buy Tommy on this. He's pretty amazing to focus on what's at hand. And will they win one? I think they look pretty poised to do so, but I would say Michigan does too. I think those two teams, in my mind, probably have the best chance. So we'll see. But I'm really excited for Tommy, having known him for 20 years, and all of a sudden he's kind of like in the epicenter of the college basketball world.
Did you go to Lukenbach, Texas last night with Willie and Waylon and the boys?
I was playing, Waylon. I tried to call you. I was doing a little rambling, man. I got that one figured out. So, 2 or 3 hours alone, I'm in my guitar room, so I was trying to mess with you, PK.
I was unavailable at that moment, but I did get back with you. What do you know about Jacobson, the coach at Utah State?
I don't know him. I've met him before. I don't know him great. We played, you and I, one time. We played him out in Hawaii for the Diamond Head Invitational. One of those years. And I can tell you this, his teams, when I heard the name, I was like, man, that's kind of a throwback to Stu Morrill. Really, really physical, really detailed, innovative. He's a guy who is kind of on the front end of stuff. But, I mean, he is a guy who has strung together 400 wins at a place that, when he walked in there, I'm sure he wondered how he's going to win one. But over a period of time has really become a name in college basketball, and it's not a name that I'd even thought of. I was kind of on the search for young guys, but it makes a lot of sense. And I see him as a guy maybe that will stick around, for a handful of years and actually kind of do it to where they can pass it off, and get a little bit more control of that. But it's worked out well for him, and I think they hired a really, really good coach, another really, really good coach that will do big things in Logan.
How important do you think it is that they got $3.9 million in buyout with the coach leaving, and then apparently spent $0 on the coach arriving? That seems like a little bit of a windfall that the Aggies ought to be able to use to their advantage in an era when the old school recruiting you went through is only important if the money is the same. And if the money's different, well, then the money tends to speak.
Yeah. I had heard rumors that at least $2.5 million of that was going to Scott Gerard. So, just in a lengthy contract negotiation that they're finally able to pay the man.
And he deserves it, don't he?
Oh, he's got a voice of an angel. It's velvet. It's literally velvet.
With Izzo and Hurley doing their thing, as like this NCAA tournament run has been fun to watch, obviously, and then you've got the deal, a little sideline note to it, coaching players hard, and what is acceptable. What do players want in terms of being coached hard? Because those two guys do it.
I think it's unique. We had guys that would come through and could take just about anything, and then we'd have guys come through, and if you looked at them cross, they'd cry. So you kind of have to figure out who you got. But I think the biggest thing, guys, is especially this day and age, I think there's a relationship required. I think in order to jump into somebody, and you see, and hear that off the court, these guys are a little better at probably than in the old days. I mean, Rick would blow everybody up, and then he'd go get in a separate car, and we'd all get on the bus, and you wouldn't see him for a day, These guys go to dinner with these kids. I know that it's a big push, obviously, with this generation, too. Communication's massive, and the old school of, hey, I'll tell you when I tell you, that doesn't work anymore. And so I think these guys have done a great job. If you're going to coach kids hard, I think you got to have a great relationship. You got to build a relationship with them, one of understanding. But I found that most kids want to be coached. They want to be told. And I think the unique piece for every coach is how do you do that? Some drive it home with a hammer, and others are, more technical. So I think the key is be yourself. Don't be somebody you're not. Don't be a jerk just to be a jerk. But I have felt through my experience that at the end of the day, players, probably would even say, I wish you would have been a little harder on me, to help me recognize or realize it. Again, nothing demeaning, but just something with urgency to make them understand how important little aspects of the game are.
How long does it take a coach to drive themselves into a dead end because Bobby Knight had that reputation for a long time, and it was probably well earned, and he won for a long time, but then eventually it just ran its course, and good players didn't want to play for him, and they were going other places. And I've seen Izzo interviewed enough that I feel like I can see that other side to his personality. If he goes crazy during a game, I think I've seen other stuff too. I haven't seen that so much with like Cronin at UCLA or Hurley. Hurley's won so much, I suppose he probably has it. Do you think any of these coaches have a shorter shelf life?
Man, that's a great question. I think you can do a lot of things, and I will quote one of my good friends in coaching. Told me this a long time ago. He said they will forgive just about everything, but they will not forgive losing. I mean, and if you look at the pattern, when Rick was here, he was the mayor of the city and having dinner with billionaires and living the high life. And, the minute they stopped winning, what became way more vocal was his treatment of players. You didn't hear about, because I promise you, he was the same dude when I was there with Andre and Keith. And to his credit, he was harder on Keith, one of our best players, than he was on just about anybody, and that's rare. But I think when you stop winning, if Hurley stops winning, nobody's putting up with his charade or his antics. And I think that's the great differentiator. You stop winning at a high level, and people stop buying your game.
Understood, and that's a fact. We're talking about the effects of AJ Dybantsa on BYU, and was it worth it? We think absolutely it was, for all the things that he has the opportunity to influence the program for years to come. What's your take?
Not just yes, but hell yes. That was I ask people this all the time. What would it have cost to get a full, a banner ad in Times Square? Just that alone, with a BYU mark on it. And I think the AJ thing worked great. I find it funny that people, ripped that it didn't work. I mean, there were a lot of reasons that it didn't work, and I think it would have worked better had Richie Saunders been around to see the end of the season for sure. But when you start talking about, I don't think people quite understand how hard it is to get a high-level player like that, to come and say yes to your place. And people will throw in, and DJ, you said it, money is a factor. There's zero doubt about it. If you're not in the game money-wise, if you're not near, it's almost like bidding on a house. You got to be in that. You got to be in that little area that is acceptable, and then you'll be brought in to negotiate, and you'll talk. And I'm sure you work against other teams, but how hard it is to get a guy like that, who will be the first player in the draft and should be. I mean, after watching all of this, there is nobody that I've seen that acclimates as well to the pro game. And then when you compound that 2 years in a row now with two guys that have come in here sight unseen, no understanding other than recruiting of what BYU is. And to go through the season, Yegor got drafted, and then not only got drafted, but he's had a good year. His future in the league looks to be something that, is a little more certain than when you first get drafted. You just don't know a lot of the variables. But to get 2 first-round picks, 2 very, very highly sought-after players to come to Provo, Utah 2 years in a row, and then follow that up with another one, I think the process is now figuring out how you build around that guy. And you may not get it perfect the first time, but the reps are really important. Getting guys to say yes, come and figure it out. And I do think there are some things they can work on in the reps, and I've seen names in the portal that I would assume BYU is going to be involved in that make sense to them. Even local guys that have can help build that backbone that BYU should have of development players. And so I think it has been not just, great. I think it's been program changing in a lot of ways. When they show 4 schools that have offered these big players, and BYU is one of those logos with, the Dark Lords of Kentucky and the Blue Bloods in North Carolina. And you see all those names in BYU's logo there. Some major, major stuff has changed. So to isolate it, to say, BYU didn't win the league and they didn't win a conference tournament game, you're way behind the race, because there's another kid coming in next year and they're going to build around him better. And KY's a hell of a coach. I mean, there's just no two ways about it. So Yes, that was a long-winded answer, but I wanted to explain why.
Sure.
AJ was perfect for this, and it will continue. BYU, when Kevin said it the very first press conference, and people in that room looked around cross-eyed, like, what is he talking about? Mm-hmm. We're going to bring pros here. Well, he's doing it. He's done it. He's had success doing it, and it'll continue.
Let's dive a little deeper into putting a better team around the next star and the star after that. As you look at this tournament, Illinois clearly leans on some foreign talent. Is that the way to go? Duke has leaned on multiple young pros, but their team's been really young, and freshmen have had turnovers in big points in key games. I mean, they've gone Elite Eight and Final Four. They haven't been terrible, but they want the big prize and they haven't gotten that. The get old, stay old. UConn probably has fewer pros, but they probably got an older roster too. How would you build a team going forward? What's the best path? Or is it just get it right? You can commit to any of these paths, but you got to have the right guys when you commit to the path.
Well, I think it's a little bit of that, DJ. But I will say that I think the get it right piece, is not like building a Lego tower, where there's 40 pieces sitting there and all you have to do is plug them in. There's a lot of searching involved. And, I used to laugh because at the time, Travis Hansen, who's now one of the guys at BYU, he was always go public while we were there. I think you need to recruit Europe more and all this stuff. And yeah, I mean, look, I don't care where you go, but you need to find players. And at the time, any European player of value at that time came over here with two things, a backpack and their handout. Because if you're going to bring a European player, there was a lot to it. And there was not just, hey, do you want a scholarship? Okay, here's the honor code. Sign that. Okay, it looks like we're good there. Let me stamp your ecclesiastical form. Okay. And where did you say you're from? Oh, Russia. Okay. There's just so much to it. And we couldn't, navigate that in the old world. And people would always like, why don't you recruit Europe more? And I didn't want to come out and say, well, because everybody else is recruiting Europe and bringing European players here, paying them. So would you like us to do that? These high-level bonuses and things like that. So, again, I don't care where you get them, but the beauty part now is BYU has there's no walls around anything. And I think they do have really great knowledge. I mean, Justin Young, he knows players. He knows where they are and who they are and how to get to them. So, yeah, it's just about getting it right. It's about getting the right guys, the right chemistry. I loved how AJ's demeanor changed over the year. I know Kevin really coached that up. But guys that are coachable, guys that aren't going to look at you and say, no, I'm only here for 8 months. And I think that's what I've seen over the last couple of years at BYU with Mark and with Kevin is, you don't want to bring in mercenaries. I wouldn't bring a guy in here that's just going to be okay for 8 months. It just doesn't make any sense. So that's why in my mind, you go get a guy who really wants to be here, can play, maybe not play as good as that guy, but in 2 years and learning your vocabulary and practicing with you and pushing your other players. I just think there's so much value in that.
Okay, so I'm a little confused, Tim. Are you talking about maybe back off the high-level guy and spread the money out instead of paying one guy a whole lot?
No. I'm saying, get your high-level guy, but I'm saying in the other positions, like your Kennard Davis guys or your, the big they signed from the G League for 5 months, or just those guys, just mercenary guys that are here for one reason. They're here to just play ball. And make it bigger than that. Bring guys in, and they're here to play ball and help your team get better. And if they don't play, that they're not going to destroy things. Or, like the Catchings kid last year, that was worth a try because he's a young kid. But, that's a long-winded answer from a coach who did it a long time. But I do think the key to it is get it right. And get it right that's not a given. BYU had a much better team beginning this year than they did at the end because of injury. And I do believe Dawson Baker and Richie Saunders would have made a world of difference if they would have been healthy. What
about the theory that if you're not going to get outbid, go get 3 pros. And that's what Arizona and Duke are doing. I mean, Arizona's not, as PK brought this up earlier, Arizona's not get old, stay old. Arizona's get several high-level young guys and then sprinkle a couple veterans around them.
Hey, yeah, absolutely. And if that is something from a perspective of spending that they can do, yeah, I mean, again, there's all sorts of ways to do it. But I do think any of the ways that you do it, particularly at BYU, I think the hidden gem is you can really build a squad that comes in with the ability to play, but over a period of time, like we saw time and time again. And Jimmer Fredette came in as a 2-star player, and he finished as the best player in college basketball. And so that's kind of what you try to bet on, is some of these guys that maybe don't have the lineage, the name, the recruiting prowess, but man, they want to come to BYU in the worst way, and they'll work to get better.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. That makes sense. That's what BYU basically was built on, but the world is different now. You wonder, even if those guys, Dallin Hall left. I'm not saying it was a wrong decision by any stretch, but in the old days, would he have stayed and just felt like, okay, I'm a senior, I don't want to sit out, and so, yeah, I'll find my way to work, make sure I get playing time. And obviously with the injuries, he would end up at as much playing time as he could have handled, but he didn't know that at the time. I just wonder, if the world is so different, how possible that is. I agree with what you're saying, but I wonder if it can actually be accomplished.
Yeah, it is definitely something to kick around. But if all else fails, man, the one piece that is real is BYU's opened, their doors in a big way the last few years to high-level athletes, both, football, basketball players that, again, at one point in time, BYU couldn't even get in the front room. So it's big, and now, yeah, you just continue to tweak it. But I would say 2 years, 2 tournaments, and 2 wins in 2 years in the tournament. That's a really good start for Kevin, and it'll only continue to get better. I really do believe that.
Tim, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining us. We will hear you on Jazz games going forward. That's right. I've got 6 left after tonight, but who's counting?
Better days are coming.
You are, apparently.
And then we're golfing, guys, okay? I'm moving to Salt Lake, so I'll be closer to you kids.
All right. Now you're talking. All right. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, guys.
There's Tim LaComb, former BYU assistant coach, now on the Jazz pre-half and post-game shows right here on The Zone. And the Jazz are playing Denver tonight at 7 o'clock, and he'll be on there at 6 with Jake. DJ and PK, stay with us. We're talking BYU football with Mitch Harper at the top of the hour right here on The Zone.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
Jared Weiss covers the NBA for The Athletic.
It's clear that they need to do something. I don't know if what they need to do is necessarily change the way the lottery works, but rather maybe to give the commissioner more power to make ad hoc decisions, like to be able to find teams or punish teams way more severely than they already have done. Ideally, I think that's where you'd want to make the changes. So therefore, you can kind of like put out these fires when they happen without taking away the competitive balance thing. It's going to change. Hopefully, it will at least restore a little bit of faith in people's perception of the game, which is already right now really, really in trouble between that and Kalshi and Polymarket and all these betting companies exploding. Like, the league has a credibility issue. It's not a 5-alarm fire, but I can hear the alarm. I'm sure you guys can hear the alarm right now too, and they got to do something before it gets louder.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, I get one thing in my mind, and I just start beating it over and over and over and over. I've got one of those things.
Yeah, I think you got to let it go with Paul Azan.
Yeah, and leave Caleb Rep alone, okay?
Let's go down the list and go.
Charlie Brewer is not coming back to Utah, DJ.
We are going through the end of the college basketball season here. Next season, that new era deal down in Vegas that pays the NIL. It's going to be high-profile TV games. Your players get money. They're going to take care of your NIL. They need people in the arena watching those games. You can't just play them in front of a studio audience here. You got to, 25 people scattered around the first couple rows because everybody comes from back east. I think Utah State and BYU can tell the organizers, we're going to put butts in seats. You need us there. We will put butts in seats, and I'll raise some money for them, get them some good games, get them some high-profile games. They got to get in on that. I don't know if there's going to be some crazy rules about how often you can go. You were limited to Maui once every 4 years, but whatever it is, they got to be in as much as possible.
I thought that those tournaments were made for television and they didn't care as much about the paid attendance.
They don't as far as the money. I think what they care about is that it looks good on TV. It's not necessarily about the amount of money they make at the gate. You're right about that. It's more about TV. I mean, they'll make whatever money they can make at the gate, so that's a bonus. But is it a big game if there's 175 people rattling around? Do you want to have a cutaway of people screaming and cheering?
If they're wearing Hawaiian shirts, yes.
Back to Maui, baby.
Because I think BYU's going to that.
Cool. And that should get you high-profile games, but we have seen stories that some teams are going to start leaning away from it. The players are thinking, I haven't heard how many teams are going to put in it this year, but that was just going to keep getting bigger, and there's all kinds of speculation of how many teams, 16, 24, 32, whatever, we're going to play in that thing.
Right.
And that they could end up ripping off, not Maui, ripping off Maui a little bit, but what the University of Hawaii did, where they would have like 3 tournaments over the course of 4 weeks, and they'd bring out 7 teams and they'd put themselves in every one of the tournaments. So in the end, like 21 teams would play in different tournaments in Hawaii. So maybe that, I don't know what this new era thing is going to look like, but if they're going to have big time games on TV and they're going to pay NIL money, the Aggies and the Cougars have to figure out a way to get in on that. The Utes, it's a tough sell right now because they're not selling out their home games. So it was a time they could have pushed it, and maybe there'll be a time again that they can push and say, hey, we can put butts in seats too. Obviously, that's a hard pitch right now.
Yeah, it is. I mean, they did it. They were in the preseason NIT, and they were in Maui multiple times. The big man was there waiting in the water. I saw him. The classic.
Wasn't it Maui where he walked behind the I can't do it, I'm busy, and then while the assistant's talking, he's walking on the beach?
It was classic, yes. They have it used to be the Marriott Hotel. Now it's the same facility, but it's a timeshare place rather than a hotel, right? And so they had like this open area, a lot of stuff, like the front desk is actually open. It's not enclosed when you got that weather like that, although, they have an awning above it. But there was this room, and it had open windows and doors, and we're all in there on the Sunday. And I think Bob Knight was there. I'm almost positive I remember him being there. And Donnie Daniels is sitting up there, all the coaches. And I think Gary Williams was there from Maryland, and they had won a national title or were about to. So you had some guys who were distinguished sitting up there. And they
Real stature, Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Right?
And Majerus was unable to attend at a prior commitment. And then right during the thing, you see him walking out of the workout room with a towel over his shoulder. A sweaty, extra large T-shirt and those gym shorts that he wore. He just walking right by it.
Hey, Rick in his natural state. That is on brand in so many respects.
He just had no use for any rules. And then he and I
do what he wanted to do.
I know. And we'd go to, I remember in Fort Collins, there was one treadmill, and he wanted it, and he and I would butt heads, and I set that thing at like 1.0 and ran for an hour, and he kept walking by looking for it, looking to see if it was empty.
1.0. You're running downhill.
Let it go.
and then he would then send managers to go stand on the treadmill and
so you
wait.
Get on it.
Yeah.
Like standing in a parking place with them.
Yeah. And they would just be standing on the thing, waiting so it would be available when he wanted it. And then one time I remember we're in the work. I think it's Fort Collins. I can't remember. And those things are small, right? And we're in there, and I'm in there, and finally he just comes in and gets on, and he changes the station. And it was like a Thursday or Friday golf, like Torrey Pines, that time of year. And I said, "Hey, I'm watching that. I was here first." Changed it back. He wasn't into golf. But before we go to break, I don't think Tim LaComb intended to do this, but he talked about foreign players, and they came with their hand out, and it was very difficult to get guys like...
Is there anybody on the Jazz you want to talk about right now?
Well, no, it wasn't. He mentioned the player's name.
He did.
And where did Sabonis go?
Right now, I'm not remembering.
Gonzaga.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, I did. You're right.
And he's tight with those guys. Now, I may have heard that over the years more than once.
Well, how did they end up with the 3 best big guys in the league, right?
Hey, just
I want to go play behind those 2 big guys.
Yeah. I mean, I could tell you stories, but there you go.
Okay.
I don't think he intended that to be out there like he did, but he did say it.
Didn't. He did. Yeah. All right, DJ PK. When we come back, we're talking Cougar football, spring football underway at the Y. We'll talk with Mitch Harper, KSLSports.com, Cougar beat writer next. Stay with us.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did you have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on Carvana. Delivery fees may apply.